Some Texas cities are already seeing weeks of danger-level heat, power grids pushed to the edge, and water supplies under serious stress. Yet people are still buying homes there like nothing is wrong. So here's the hard question. What if the place you're living right now is quietly becoming almost unlivable, and nobody is telling you? In this video, we're breaking down 10 Texas cities that could be hit the hardest in the coming years by brutal heat, water problems, flooding, storms, and rising costs that squeeze normal families. Some of these places are booming, trendy, even advertised as the future. But when you look at the data, the story gets a lot darker. Stay with me because it's not just the usual suspects. A few of the most at-risk areas might actually surprise you. By the end, you'll know where your city stands and what you can do now if you can't just pack up and leave. Number 10, El Paso. El Paso looks calm from the outside. Big desert skies, mountain views, and dry, sunny weather almost all year. But that same perfect sunshine is exactly why it's on this list. El Paso is already seeing long stretches of 100-degree F+ days, and what used to feel like a bad heat wave is slowly becoming the new normal. The real danger isn't just one super hot afternoon. It's weeks of extreme heat in a row, where your body, your home, and even your city never really get a chance to cool down. At night, the temperature sometimes stays high enough that your house keeps the heat trapped inside, and sleep becomes harder and less restful. Over time, that kind of constant heat isn't just uncomfortable. It's dangerous, especially for kids, older people, or anyone without strong AC. On top of the heat, El Paso has another big problem: water. This city depends heavily on the Rio Grande and underground aquifers, both of which are under pressure from drought, population growth, and climate change. When river levels drop and droughts get longer, the city has to stretch every gallon further. That can mean tougher water restrictions, rising costs, and more stress on families and local businesses. Imagine paying more for basic water use while also depending on your AC 24/7 just to stay safe. For many people, that combination, hotter days, hotter nights, higher bills, starts to feel like a slow squeeze. So why is El Paso only number 10 and not higher? Because the city is not ignoring these issues. There are conservation efforts, planning, and adaptations already happening. But even with those steps, the direction is worrying. If the extreme heat days keep increasing and water sources keep shrinking, everyday life here could become tougher, especially for low-income neighborhoods where homes are older, insulation is poor, and AC units are weak or missing. If you live in El Paso, ask yourself, how many days each summer already feel barely manageable? And what happens if that number doubles? Number 9, Lubbock. Lubbock doesn't usually show up in scary climate headlines, but it probably should. This city sits in the Texas High Plains, where the weather can flip from blazing heat to cold winds, and long dry stretches are becoming more common. Heat is one part of the story, but Lubbock's real warning sign is the combination of drought and dust. When the land dries out and the wind picks up, you get those thick dust storms that turn the sky brown and cut visibility fast. It's not just dramatic to look at. Dust in the air can irritate your lungs, trigger breathing problems, and make simple things like going for a walk or driving home feel risky. Behind those dust storms is a deeper issue: water stress. Lubbock depends heavily on underground water supplies and limited surface water in a region that's naturally dry. Farmers in the surrounding area rely on irrigation, and as droughts stretch longer and aquifers are used faster than they refill, everyone starts competing for the same shrinking resource. That can lead to higher water bills, stricter rules, and growing pressure on the local economy, especially agriculture. When farms struggle, jobs can disappear, prices can rise, and suddenly the whole city feels the impact, even if you've never set foot in a field. So what does almost unlivable look like in Lubbock's future? It's not a dramatic movie scene where everyone leaves at once. It's more subtle. More days where the air feels dirty and harsh on your lungs, more nights where the heat doesn't let up, more months where people worry about their water use and their job security at the same time. Some neighborhoods will adapt better than others. Newer homes with good insulation and filtration will cope, while older, poorly sealed houses will suffer. If you're in Lubbock, it's worth asking, are you noticing more dust, more dry spells, more extreme swings, and what happens if those become the new normal? Number 8, Midland, Odessa. On paper, Midland, Odessa is an energy powerhouse. Oil, gas, jobs, and money flowing in from the Permian Basin. But underneath that success is a growing list of problems that make daily life here more fragile than it looks. First, there's the relentless heat. Summers bring long runs of triple-digit days, and with so much concrete, metal, and open, exposed land, the heat doesn't just pass through. It builds up and lingers. Add in the dry air and strong sun, and just walking across a parking lot can feel like stepping into an oven. When your entire lifestyle depends on working outdoors or driving between spread-out locations, that heat becomes more than an inconvenience. It's a constant health risk. Then there's the air quality. With heavy oil and gas activity, flaring, and industrial emissions around the region, residents can face increased levels of pollution and particulates, especially on still or windy days. You might not always see it, but your lungs definitely feel it. People with asthma, heart problems, or sensitive airways can struggle on bad days, and even healthy people can end up with headaches, irritated eyes, or scratchy throats. Combine that with dust from the dry landscape, and you get a mix that makes simply breathing outside less comfortable and, over time, less safe. It's the kind of thing that doesn't show up on a postcard, but it absolutely shows up in day-to-day life. So why is Midland, Odessa on this list now? Because when you put all of this together, extreme heat, air pollution, water concerns, and economic dependence on a single volatile industry, you get a city that feels like it's constantly walking a tightrope. If power goes out during a brutal heat wave, if air quality dips even more, if water becomes tighter, or if the oil economy stumbles, the pressure lands directly on regular families. Some people will be able to adapt with better homes, filters, and backup systems. Others, especially in older or low-income neighborhoods, will be left struggling. The real question for Midland, Odessa is, how long can a city stay booming if more and more people find it hard just to live there comfortably? Number 7, San Antonio. San Antonio is one of those cities people move to for the food, the culture, the river walk, and the warm weather. But that warm is slowly turning into relentless, heavy heat that sticks around longer each year. Summers are stretching, triple-digit days are becoming more common, and the city's famous charm feels very different when just stepping outside in the afternoon feels like walking into a wall. The problem isn't just how hot it gets at the peak. It's how often it happens and how little relief there is between heat waves. The more the city spreads with concrete, parking lots, and big roads, the more it creates urban heat islands. Neighborhoods that stay hotter day and night because they absorb and trap heat like a giant frying pan. Then there's the water problem quietly running in the background. San Antonio relies on major aquifers and careful water management. But as the city grows and droughts hit harder, that balance gets more fragile. When you combine more people, more lawns, more development, and more heat, every gallon of water starts to matter. In a bad year, that can mean stricter watering rules, higher bills, or long-term plans that don't fully keep up with how fast the climate is shifting. Now picture that with AC units working non-stop, power demand soaring, and the grid feeling the strain. For many families, especially in older homes with poor insulation, the question becomes, can you afford to keep your place cool enough to be safe? San Antonio still has huge strengths: strong culture, tourism, and a city government that at least recognizes many of these challenges. But not all neighborhoods benefit equally. Wealthier areas can add trees, better roofs, and energy-efficient designs faster. Poorer areas often have less shade, older roofs, and weaker AC, turning hot days into dangerous ones. That growing gap is a big part of why San Antonio is on this list. If you live there, think about your own daily routine in July or August. How much do you plan your life around avoiding the sun? And what happens if the hottest days start to become most of the summer instead of a few bad weeks? If you've watched this far, you're already ahead of most people in your city. You see what's coming. Now I want to hear from the people actually living this. Drop a comment with your city and one change you've noticed in the last few years. When you're done, go watch our previous video where we break down which regions might actually be safer in the future. It pairs perfectly with this one. And if you want us to keep digging into the hard questions nobody else is asking, please support us by subscribing. It's just one click, but it means everything to this channel. Number 6, Houston. Houston is a city that feels unstoppable. Massive economy, busy ports, endless suburbs, and shiny new developments everywhere. But anyone who actually lives there knows there's another side to the story. Houston isn't just hot, it's hot, humid, and heavy, the kind of air that feels like it sticks to your skin. Add in more frequent stretches of extreme heat and you get summers that feel less like a season and more like a test of endurance. And that's before we even talk about the thing Houston is famous for around the world: flooding. This is a city where a single storm can turn roads into rivers and trap people in their homes, sometimes in just a few hours. The real problem is how often these once-in-a-lifetime events keep happening. Houston sits in the path of hurricanes and tropical storms, and when those storms hit a city packed with pavement, highways, and low-lying neighborhoods, the water has nowhere to go. Homes flood, cars are destroyed, and families are left starting over again and again. On top of that, Houston has a huge number of chemical plants, refineries, and industrial sites. When serious storms or floods hit those areas, they can lead to leaks, spills, and air quality problems, turning a natural disaster into a health disaster too. So in Houston, Unlivable isn't always about the daily weather. It's about how often life gets thrown into chaos. What makes this even tougher is how unequal the impact can be. Some neighborhoods sit higher, have better drainage, stronger homes, and good insurance. Others are low-lying, underserved, and more exposed. For people in those areas, every big storm forecast brings the same questions. Will my street flood again? Can I afford repairs this time? Is my job still there after this? Houston is on this list not because it's weak, but because it's constantly being tested by heat, by water, by pollution, and by the limits of its own infrastructure. The big question for the future is, how many times can families rebuild before they simply can't anymore? Number 5, Galveston and the Texas coast. At first glance, coastal Texas looks like a dream. Warm water, sea breeze, fishing, tourism, and colorful houses by the beach. But along with that postcard view comes a tough reality. These are some of the most exposed places in the entire state. Cities like Galveston, Port Arthur, and other coastal communities sit right in the path of stronger storms, rising seas, and powerful storm surges. One bad hurricane can tear apart roads, knock out power for days, flood entire neighborhoods, and leave saltwater sitting inside homes. Even when the weather is calm, the ocean is slowly creeping higher, and that means more erosion, more flooding in big tides, and more stress on the very land these cities are built on. But the danger isn't just physical, it's financial. Living here can become unlivable on paper long before the waves actually reach your doorstep. Insurance rates climb, deductibles get bigger, and some companies simply stop covering certain areas altogether. Repairs after each storm get more expensive, and building codes get stricter, which is good for safety but tough on people's wallets. A family might survive one big storm, maybe two. But after the third or fourth round of tearing out walls, replacing cars, and fighting with insurance, many people reach a breaking point. The stress of always wondering, will this be the year we lose everything? Can wear down even the toughest coastal residents. At the same time, not everyone can just leave. Jobs, family ties, and lower housing prices compared to big cities keep many people in harm's way. And coastal Texas isn't emptying out. It's still attracting tourists and new residents who see the beauty more than the risk. That's why Galveston and the wider Texas coast land at number 5 on this list. They're beautiful but fragile. If you live there, you probably already have a mental storm plan. The question is, how many more times can you rebuild, pay higher premiums, and hold your breath during hurricane season before you start wondering if staying is worth it? Number 4, Dallas, Fort Worth, DFW. Dallas-Fort Worth looks like pure opportunity from a distance. Glass towers, new suburbs popping up everywhere, giant highways, and endless shopping centers. But living there, you feel something else too. The heat is getting more intense and more constant. DFW already sees long stretches of triple-digit temperatures, and the combination of heat, humidity, and strong sun makes it feel even worse than the number on the screen. With so much concrete, asphalt, and sprawling development, the metro area acts like a huge heat trap. Many neighborhoods turn into urban heat islands, where nights don't cool down enough and mornings feel like you never really escaped yesterday's weather. That constant heat doesn't just make you sweaty. It pushes AC systems to their limit, raises power bills, and makes any outdoor task feel like a challenge. Then add in air quality and traffic. DFW is famous for long commutes and heavy car dependence. More cars mean more pollution and ozone, especially on hot, still days when dirty air just hangs over the city. People stuck in traffic in baking hot vehicles, with sunlight blasting through the windows, are living a kind of slow stress that doesn't always make the news but absolutely wears you down. For older adults, young kids, or people with lung or heart problems, those bad air days and extreme heat drives can be genuinely dangerous. And when the power grid struggles, like during heat waves or cold snaps, suddenly millions of people who rely completely on AC and electric systems find out just how fragile their comfort really is. The deeper problem is that not everyone in DFW has the same ability to handle these hits. Newer, wealthier suburbs might have better insulation, newer AC units, more trees, and safer infrastructure. Older, lower-income neighborhoods often have less shade, weaker AC, and houses that leak cool air as fast as you can make it. Those communities feel every extra degree more painfully. That's why DFW is high on this list. The gap between what the city promises and what daily life can feel like is getting wider. If you live there, think about your own routine in July. How many hours do you spend planning around heat, traffic, and bad air? And what happens if summers keep getting longer, hotter, and more expensive to survive? Number 3, Austin. Austin has spent years being sold as the cool, creative, move here now city, tech jobs, festivals, live music, and that laid-back vibe. But underneath the hype, daily life is getting harder in a way a lot of people don't talk about. First, the heat. Austin summers are turning into long, relentless stretches of triple-digit days where just walking a few blocks can drain you. The mix of blazing sun, bigger roads, and rapid construction means more surfaces absorbing heat and less green space to cool things down. Nights that used to feel warm now often stay hot and sticky, which means your body and your home never really reset. That constant heat puts huge pressure on your AC, your energy bill, and your health, especially if you're working outside or in older buildings. But Austin's biggest problem might not even be the climate. It's the cost of living colliding with that climate. As more people move in and housing prices rise, a lot of residents are pushed into older, less efficient homes or farther out suburbs with long drives and weaker infrastructure. Those places can be much harder to keep cool and much more expensive to live in. When your rent is high, your power bill jumps in summer, and gas isn't cheap. Simply surviving the hot months becomes a serious financial challenge. A city can have great parks, cool coffee shops, and tons of events, but if large chunks of the population are one bad heat wave away from an impossible power bill, it starts drifting into almost unlivable territory for regular people. On top of that, Austin still faces drought and water stress. The region depends on river systems and reservoirs that feel the impact of hotter, drier periods. When water levels drop, restrictions tighten, and long-term concerns grow. The people with newer, energy-efficient apartments, shaded streets, and strong AC will manage. But families in older rentals with thin walls, poor insulation, and outdated units will feel every extra degree and every extra dollar. That's why Austin lands at number 3 on this list. If you live there, ask yourself, are you building a fun life in a booming city? Or are you quietly rearranging your entire routine and budget just to get through summer without breaking down? Number 2, Corpus Christi and the South Texas coast. Corpus Christi and the surrounding South Texas coastal area can look almost perfect from the outside. Beaches, bays, fishing spots, warm winters, and that relaxed coastal lifestyle. But that same location that makes it feel like a hidden gem also puts it in one of the most climate-exposed zones in Texas. This region is highly vulnerable to hurricanes, tropical storms, and storm surge, and those storms are getting stronger and wetter. One powerful system can slam the area with flooding rains, brutal winds, and waves that push far inland, wrecking homes, roads, and power lines. Even when a storm doesn't hit directly, near misses and tropical disturbances still bring heavy rain, flooding, and long stretches of soaked, unstable ground that wear down infrastructure over time. What makes Corpus Christi and the South Texas coast even more at risk is the combination of climate and infrastructure. Many buildings are older, not all neighborhoods are elevated or well-drained, and some communities have fewer resources to rebuild after each hit. When power goes out in this region during a summer storm, you're dealing with heat, humidity, and no AC, which can turn a rough situation into a dangerous one, especially for older adults, kids, and people with health issues. Add in the fact that the local economy is tied to ports, refineries, and energy facilities along the water, and storms can also mean job interruptions, chemical risks, and long recovery periods. So, unlivable here doesn't mean the city disappears. It means the cycle of damage and repair gets so frequent and intense that normal life becomes a constant uphill battle. On top of that, there's the slow pressure of rising insurance costs, higher maintenance needs, and flood worries. Some families might handle one big rebuild, maybe two, but after replacing roofs, flooring, cars, and belongings over and over, more people begin to think, can we really do this again? Meanwhile, not everyone can afford to move away from the coast or to a newer, safer area. That's why this region ends up so high on the list. It's a place where beauty and risk are always fighting each other, and the risk is slowly winning. If you live in Corpus Christi or nearby coastal towns, ask yourself honestly, how many more major storms can your home, your savings, and your nerves take before it feels like too much? Number 1, the Rio Grande Valley, McAllen, Brownsville, and surrounding areas. The Rio Grande Valley might not get as much national attention as Austin or Dallas, but in many ways it sits right at the front line of almost unlivable. Cities like McAllen, Brownsville, Harlingen, and nearby communities face a brutal mix of extreme heat, high humidity, and deep poverty. Summer here can feel like walking into a heavy, wet blanket that never lifts. When the heat index jumps well above the actual temperature, just standing outside for a few minutes can drain your energy. Nights often stay hot and sticky, meaning your body never fully cools down and your home stays warm unless the AC runs almost non-stop. For people with strong AC, good insulation, and money to pay the bills, it's tough but manageable. But many families in the valley don't have that luxury. That's what makes this region so vulnerable. It's not just the weather, it's the inequality. A lot of people in the Rio Grande Valley live in older homes, trailers, or informal housing with thin walls, bad insulation, and weak or no AC. Some rely on window units that struggle against the heat, or they avoid turning them on because they're afraid of the electric bill. Others live in colonious, unincorporated neighborhoods that may lack good infrastructure, drainage, or reliable services. When a heat wave hits, or when there's a power outage, those families are hit the hardest. Add in limited access to healthcare, transportation, and good-paying jobs, and you get a situation where a few extra degrees of heat can mean serious health risks and impossible choices about money. On top of heat and poverty, the valley also faces flooding and storm threats, especially when tropical systems push inland from the Gulf. Heavy rain can quickly flood low-lying areas and poorly drained neighborhoods, damaging homes that were already fragile. For many residents, there's no safety net. Savings are thin, insurance is limited or non-existent, and rebuilding is slow and painful. That's why the Rio Grande Valley takes the #1 spot on this list. It's not because it's the hottest or stormiest place in Texas on paper. It's because the people here are forced to battle extreme heat and extreme hardship at the same time. If you live in the valley, you probably already know someone who avoids using AC, who worries about flooding, or who has health issues made worse by the heat. The big question is, how many more hotter summers can this region take before normal life becomes a daily survival challenge for even more families? When you look at all these places together, from El Paso's dry heat to Houston's floods, from Austin's rising costs to the Rio Grande Valley's brutal mix of heat and poverty, one thing becomes clear: almost unlivable doesn't happen in one big moment. Creeps in slowly. It shows up as a few more 100 degrees Fahrenheit days each year, a couple more scary storms, a water bill that keeps climbing, or a neighborhood where AC feels like a luxury instead of a basic need. Most people don't wake up and say, "My city is unlivable now." They just keep adjusting one small compromise at a time until life feels like it's mostly about coping instead of living. But this isn't a video about giving up or running away from Texas. It's about understanding what's really happening so you can make smarter choices for your home, your family, and your future. You can't control the global climate on your own, and not everyone can just pack up and move. But you can push for more trees and shade in your neighborhood, check your city's flood maps, support grid and water upgrades, improve insulation in your home if possible, and stay informed about heat risks and emergency plans. Small changes don't fix everything, but they can turn a disaster into a close call, or a close call into just an uncomfortable week. Now I want to hear from you. Is your city on this list? honest. Do you think it deserves to be higher or lower? Or did I miss a Texas city you think is in real trouble? Tell me where you live, what you're seeing on the ground, and how your day-to-day life has changed over the last few years. If this video opened your eyes or matched what you're already feeling, hit like, subscribe, and share it with someone in Texas who needs to start thinking about these questions too. The more we talk about this now, the better chance we have of keeping our cities not just survivable, but truly livable.